can call it your aura, you can call it your superpower, you can call it a vibe or, your jam, but your energy really is your edge. I think the key that we really talk about a lot with big energy is like, it's not about mimicking Andrea Owen's energy or trying to match Erin King's energy, but it's really about bringing this radical awareness to that essence of you when you just know you're at your best.
You're listening to Make Some Noise podcast, episode number 635 with guest Erin King. Welcome to Make Some Noise podcast, your guide for strategies, tools, and insight to empower yourself. I'm your host, Andrea Owen, global speaker, entrepreneur, life coach since 2007, and author of 3 books that have been translated into 18 languages and are available in 22 countries. Each week, I'll bring you a guest or a lesson that will help you maximize unshakable confidence, master resilience, and make some noise in your life. You ready? Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I am so glad that you're here. Today, I have one of my favorite people back on the show. Erin King is always there for you when you need somebody who has that contagious energy. Erin King, I just love talking to her. She's one of those people where I never walk away from the conversation without feeling more energized, more motivated, more inspired. She's just one of those people. So before we get into that, I wanted to remind you that very soon I'm going to be booking a time for the next Daring Way retreat that is going to be at my cozy little house here in Greensboro, North Carolina in the new year. So if you want to be one of the first to hear about it, this is going to be a lower cost retreat because it's at my house and it's going to be cozy and intimate. And this particular curriculum, if you haven't heard me talk about it in the past, I've been talking about it for 10 years, you guys, because I've been facilitating it for that long, running retreats, doing it online, working one-on-one with my clients. This particular curriculum is around shame resilience, but more specifically, it's about how to have better coping mechanisms, how to show up in your life, not from a place of worrying how you're going to be perceived by others, not from a place of being inauthentic because you're trying to avoid certain feelings. It's about learning the skills and strategies to be able to show up fully as the person that you want to be, fully in your power, fully in your resilience. That's really what it's about. So head over to andreaowen.com/retreat. You can read all about it. You can read about the curriculum, what the key takeaways are from being a part of that retreat, and also be the first to be notified when I do open registration. Doesn't obligate you to actually sign up, but you will be notified very first because spots are limited. I can only take a certain amount of people when I facilitate these. So make sure that you are the first to know. All right, let's get into the show today. Let me tell you a little bit about our guest. Erin King is a motivational speaker, best-selling author, and personal energy management expert. She's the author of You're Kind of a Big Deal and has been featured in Forbes. King's work focuses on optimizing your inner resources to perform at your best. She has a proprietary energy management system that helps you identify what's impacting your energy reserves. Erin King has worked with clients including Disney, Visa, Adobe, and the United States Navy. So without further ado, here is Erin. Erin King, welcome back.
Andrea Owen, it is so good to see you and hear your voice. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited. My pleasure. I knew I had to have you back on because I've seen your content on Instagram, and it's just always good to hear this message that we're about to walk into for the next 45 minutes or so. And let me just dive right in. Speaking of energy, big deal energy it sounds powerful, just those 3 words. So can you break down what does that mean for people who don't know your work? Like how can we start tapping into this? What does it mean?
Well, we dropped the deal out of the phrase because some of our
originally it was big deal energy, or sorry.
Yeah. Big deal energy. And some of our clients got a little bit, they thought it was referring to another kind of big D energy, which was a little too cheeky for some of our corporate clients. So we dropped that to make sure everyone felt safe and happy to engage with the content and the platform and the IP. So it's your big energy now. But regardless of what you call it, you can call it your aura, you can call it your superpower, you can call it a vibe or, your jam, but your energy really is your edge. And I think the key that we really talk about a lot with big energy is like, it's not about mimicking Andrea Owen's energy or trying to match Erin King's energy, but it's really about bringing this radical awareness to that essence of you when you just know you're at your best. When you just show up and you just have that unstoppable feeling, like you're like, I'm magnetic, I'm irresistible, I've got this. And we have those moments in our life, whether it's personally or professionally. And my mission is like, how do we do a better job of engineering those on purpose versus when they just magically happen and it feels so incredible and you feel so aligned and ambitious and alive and on fire. But then there's other times where it's a high stakes moment, it's an important meeting or just something that matters to you. And you find like you just can't bring that you to it. And it's such a drainer for you and those around you. So I actually spent an entire year working with a team of PhD researchers, which is up your alley. I know with all of your research and your certifications and trainings.
I do love science-backed stuff.
You love the science-backed stuff. And so what I was trying to do really is kind of, when I was looking for how I could manage my energy better, and I'll tell you kind of why about that in a little bit. I was looking at there's two schools of energy conversation we have right now in social media and in different discussions. The first is basically your classic like wellness, right? I call it doing the duh, like diet, unwind, hydrate, duh. We know that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't sleep, you don't eat, you feel like crap, you have no energy. We know this, right? And on the other side, like if that's 101, 301 is more of the vibrational manifestation, law of attraction, all that kind of stuff. And both of those conversations are super important, very effective. I'm a big fan of both. But what I found was there was sort of this middle ground, this uncharted chasm, sort of a 201 that was more about emotional energy and mental energy and how we manage and spend it, source it, and save it. So I hired this team of researchers and we spent a whole year and we interviewed thousands and thousands of people from all over the country, ages 18 to 64. And they're professionals who are employed, self-employed or employed. And we just asked them about their energy levels, their energy styles, where they get it, what fires them up, what bums them out, what drains them, where they go to get reinvigorated. And the coolest part of the whole study was there was this subgroup of people that emerged, and they basically scored really high in two key categories. The first key category was their energy level. So the classic scientific measurement, which I did not know this, but now I do, about personal human energy is that our battery is on a scale from 1 to 7. Obviously, we all prefer a good old 1 to 10, but 1 to 7 helps the researchers of this genre define, are you lower energy or higher energy?
Okay. Based on there being a middle at 4, you mean?
Exactly.
Yep. Okay, gotcha.
Yep. So 1 to 4 is lower and 5 to 7 is considered higher energy. So we asked all these people like, hey, if you were to average the last 90 days of your life, I mean, the last 2 years of your life, right? Andrea Owen's life and the last 2 years of my life, Erin King's life, we have had so much change and tumultuous changes and moves and relationship shifts and adventures. I mean, you and I have had a big couple years. So obviously day to day, our energy is fluctuating. Like even before we hit record, you were like, I'm on fire right now. I'm feeling so good. And I'm like, gosh, I've been working since 5. I'm a little bit low vibe. But so it's obviously up and down throughout the day. It oscillates. Like energy is like water. It's like, you're not just going to keep it in one state forever. So what we talk about when you talk about your energy level is like basically your baseline battery if you were to average out the last 90 days of your life. So you try to assign this number based on not like how tired you are in the moment or how pumped you are in the moment, but more like if you were to look at your overall stoke on your life, personally and professionally, where do you land? 1 to 7. Like this is the question. So we asked all these people, and there was a very small group of people that really reported being in that 5 to 7 range, which is like, oh, okay, they're high vibe. But you and I also know there are tons of high vibe people who are also like nutcases that are just like, they're running around, they're barely keeping it together. They're high energy, but it's like negative energy. It's energy that kind of like repels you. You can feel they're just like frenetic. That's the perfect word. So the other question we asked that was really interesting was, we had what was called a life satisfaction score. The life satisfaction score was like, hey, how present do you feel? How joyful? How excited for the future? Do you feel like you're living in the moment? Do you feel like you've accomplished what you came to accomplish? You know, how stoked are you on your life? And so people that had a score of 90 or above on their life satisfaction, but also had that high energy score, we really surfaced that group. It was a very small group of people that had both high enjoying, but also that high performing, right? And we called them the big energy beings because everyone wants to be a babe, right?
Yeah.
BEB. So the big energy beings, like who we really studied. And honestly, Andrew, what we learned from talking to this group blew my mind. changed my life. And we reverse engineered this kind of like 5-step blueprint of what they're doing that they don't even know they're doing that we should all really try to bring into our lives. So it's been a really cool journey.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Quick question before we dive into some of those.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that you studied both men and women, right?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
And all over
genders.
the country. So yeah. So I'll send you a link to our energy exam. I don't know if I sent you that link yet or not, but I'll send it to you. There's an assessment you can take to figure out your energy type.
It's on your website, right? Okay. We'll put it in the show notes too. I saw it.
Yeah. But you'll see if you want to get crazy, and like, I know you'll love this because you're like, you love all the academia and the science and the research. So if you want to get like nerdy science about it, which I also love, there's a whole section in the report that explains like exactly who we talk to from all over the US. So we try to get like every single region, different socioeconomic backgrounds. And also what was really important to us were people that had, for a lack of a more scientific term, people that had seen some shit. Right. Like we didn't want just people that had like the idyllic, Norman Rockwellian
super
childhood.
Privileged people. Yeah. It's like, okay.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, exactly. So it's like, hey, like, have you ever been to therapy? Like, have you experienced trauma? Like we wanted to get a mixed bag because I think there's a definite feeling that some people with really high energy and high life satisfaction, it's because they just haven't had as many drainers in their life. And what we found was that actually was the opposite, that a lot of these big energy beings had some pretty rough stories, but it was their mindset and what they choose to do with what their story was that made all the difference. So yeah, I can't wait to hear your energy. I'm guessing your type is probably generative. That's the one I'm guessing for you. We can get into the types later.
Ooh,
yeah, okay. So it's been a lot of fun.
Perfect. We have to take a quick ad break. So when we get back, let's talk about that. We'll be right back. You know what's the worst? Getting a surprise bill that needs to be paid right away, but you don't have the cash until your next payday, which might be a whole week away. Earnin is an app that gives you access to your pay as you work, up to $100 per day or up to $750 per pay period. Just download the Earnin app and verify your paycheck. Then access up to $100 a day as you work and leave an optional tip. Any money you access plus tips are automatically repaid from your next paycheck. You can use the money you get from Earnin for a special weekend away, for your mental health, getting that holiday gift early that's on sale right now, or even a personal growth retreat. Make Earnin a part of your financial routine and join Earnin's over 3.5 million customers who say things like, when I think about Earnin, I think about financial stability, security. It gives me a lot of peace of mind. Download Earnin today, spelled EARNIN in the Google Play or Apple App Store. When you download the Earnin app, type in noise under podcast when you sign up, please. It'll really help the show. Noise under podcast. Subject to your available earnings, location, daily max, and pay period max. See earnin.com/TOS for details. Earnin is a financial technology company, not a bank. Bank products are issued by Evolve Bank and Trust, member FDIC. Hey everyone, if you're anything like me, you love a good home-cooked meal, but you don't always have time for the meal planning, the prepping, the shopping, all of that, right? Well, that's where HelloFresh comes in. With farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients delivered straight to your door, they make it so easy to whip up delicious meals without the hassle. No more endless recipe searching, and no more buying a whole jar of some random spice you'll use once. HelloFresh sends you exactly what you need, fresh and perfectly portioned. Plus, with 50 recipes to choose from each week, you'll never get bored. I personally love their fit and wholesome options, keeping my meals healthy without sacrificing flavor. And here's the best part. If your schedule changes, HelloFresh has your back. You can easily adjust your delivery date or even skip a week if life gets too crazy. Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/free MSN. Applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/free MSN.
Are you overwhelmed by the things that get in the way of you doing what you want to do? Are you looking for ways to simplify life to better align with your values? Do you want to create space in your schedule so you have room for more of the good stuff? Play, joy, relationships, gratitude, and more? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I invite you to check out Edit Your Life, a podcast to help you edit the unnecessary from your life so you have more room to enjoy the awesome. Through episodes with me, Christine Coe, and a range of super smart, compassionate, and thoughtful guests, you'll come away with big picture insights and practical ways to declutter your home, schedule, and mental space without getting bogged down by perfection. I have always believed that small moments and actions matter tremendously. My goal is to help you find agency and space in your life through doable baby steps that will leave you feeling accomplished instead of overwhelmed. Check out Edit Your Life wherever you enjoy your podcasts.
Okay, so before the break, you were talking about, what is it? The types?
5 energy types.
Okay, what are they?
So kinetic. Kinetic is like the more you're in motion, the more energy you get.
Okay.
So if you're a kinetic and you're drained, it's
like physical motion or like mental or both?
Like you need a challenge. You need to be you need to be on. There's a little like power grid that you get when you do my study where there's 3 sources of energy, right? So there's connection, control, and competence. Those are your sources. And the spaces are up top. So you have physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. So each of the 5 types lives at an intersection between these 2. So kinetic is like in the physical realm, a sense of control and competence. So these people need to be good at where they're moving, what they're making happen. They need to be challenged. But then the other different types have their own intersection as well. So generative, yours, needs to have a sense of competence in the creative realm.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. And then there's other ones too, like rigorous has to have a sense of control in the mental realm. And then synergistic has to have connection in the spiritual and a little bit in the emotional. So it's like these bubbles that kind of go around this grid to kind of show you sort of where the intersection of your personal power source really lies.
Yeah.
You can kind of reverse engineer like alignment decisions, based on your personal DNA.
Oh, that's so interesting. And I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when you talked about, the people who thrive on creativity, that there's a direct connection there in terms of like emotional wellness.
Yes, 100%. So in the study, we talked about chargers and drainers. So everyone has their chargers and drainers. So for generatives, for you, like a drainer for you is whenever you are being subjected to any environment, interaction, situation that is too much inside of a box and does not allow you to be free. Like that will drain your energy, no matter how much sleep you got, no matter if you ate kale for the last 6 months and you walked to your 10,000 steps, you will still feel drained because your energetic DNA is not thriving in a space of creativity and pioneering inventiveness.
Oh my gosh.
It's really interesting.
I'm connecting some dots in my life that I probably shouldn't say out loud. They have to do with other people I'm no longer in contact with.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a good quiz.
It's fun. Yeah. I mean, look, it's not like a BuzzFeed, like what Disney princess are you? I mean, we literally had these PhD researchers that put together, it's more like a Myers-Briggs or a Strengths Finder. I mean, it's meaty. It's only 5 minutes, but the questions are questions where you're like, oh, I want to pick 2, but I can't. So it's a tough quiz. You know what I mean? Where you really have to if you're honest with yourself, it really reveals some beautiful truths about maybe why you're feeling low vibe, why you're feeling burnt out beyond just like, my job sucks, I'm not sleeping.
Right. So point to other things. Well, I love that. Like in the beginning, when you started talking about this, you were saying that finding, it's important to find the right energy for different situations. And so I think what people might be thinking is how do they balance, tapping into that bold and confident energy that some certain situations ask for without coming off as too much? Because I think for my audience, that's the fear. It's like people aren't going to be able to sort of accept me from that place.
Yeah. As someone who has been asked to be smaller and less my entire life, which I'm sure does not resonate for you at all. I mean, obviously, as speakers and authors and Aries, like no one's ever thought we were too much ever in our life. But, what's interesting is, part of the research was about what types of energies are compatible with others and which ones aren't. You've heard my grandmother's story from past podcasts. We've potted together multiple times where, she'd always tell me it's always better to be someone's shot of whiskey than everyone's cup of tea. Right. And so there is this element to the mindset around that people pleasing, being everything to everyone, where certain energies just don't jam. So the bigger question is like, okay, well, what if there's someone that you're managing? What if there's someone that you're related to? Yeah. What if there's someone that you can't just be like, well, I'm not your shot of whiskey, Asta, right? So if that's your situation, what's really been super fascinating about identifying these 5 key energy types is understanding that each one of us has a primary charger. And so if you are finding yourself in a situation where you're butting heads with someone, either they think you're too much, or you think they're not enough, or whichever way the judgment is going, there's an element to what makes people feel energized that can be summed up in literally one word. So I use this whole body of work as a cheat sheet for managing my clients, my employees, my team, people that I'm butting heads with. I will ask them to take the energy exam. And when I know what their energy type is, it's very clear to me, for example, if someone on my team is giving me attitude and they are a synergistics get a vibe off of being connected spiritually or emotionally. So if they're not connected to somebody else, like feeling like they're working in a team, collaboration, vibing off the crowd, they want to link arms, or a bigger mission than themselves, spiritual, it could be community driven, purpose driven. If they don't feel plugged into other people or something bigger, they are going to be a nightmare no matter how much you try to coach them or mentor them or whatever. So for me, if I have a synergistic that's giving me a low vibe, I'm like, okay, what are they working on every day? What are their tasks? Is it being framed? Are they working alone too much in a silo? Have they lost sight of the bigger mission, the bigger why? If so, it's a quick kumbaya with the team. It's a quick, hey, here's our why. And boom, all of a sudden that friction melts away. And now you have a happy, synergistic employee that is like, all of a sudden not giving you passive aggressive attitude on email saying like, please advise 10 exclamation points, please right? Advise. So like, you know what I mean? So it's not really about, I don't think coming in and being too much, because you are going to be too much for some people. The question is, what is your goal with that person? Like, is it that you just want to be liked by everybody else? Are you trying to close a deal? Do you need to get them on your team? Do you need to galvanize?
They're all very different reasons.
What's your why? Yeah. So like, I don't want to be too much for someone that I'm trying to get to like back a new startup idea. I want to be just the right amount. So I will definitely chameleon myself in an influential strategy play. But on the other side, if it's just like a party and you're not jamming with someone because they're, have their arms crossed and they're just glaring at you because they just don't like you because you remind them of someone that hurt their feelings in high school, like, not your problem. Like, you read your books, like, come on.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I have definitely met people in my life where we didn't have chemistry, and I wanted to have chemistry so much with them because I liked them. Like, I genuinely liked them. And when I say don't have chemistry, like it was how that manifested was like, we kept kind of like talking over each other and just like things felt like awkward. And I walked away from it and I'm like, neither of us are wrong or bad. I just do think there's something to be said about, because, humans are made up of energy. And, the more I learn about this, and I know hardly anything about like brain waves that we have. And like, sometimes yours are the same as other people's. And those are the people that you feel like, oh, I vibe with this person. Like, that's literally what that is. So it's just, and I'm thinking of this one person in particular. She was the wife of my ex-husband's really good friend. And I tried so hard to vibe with her and I just couldn't. And like, I was like, oh, it's such a bummer because she's really cool, but it just wasn't there.
The alignment was missing. And the thing is that energy never lies. Energy never lies. In a world, as you know, of like AI and automation and filters and hair dye and, Facetune and fake news and whatever, it goes on and on. Like, energy is sort of our last remaining truth teller. Yeah. Energy is the last truth teller that we can trust. Because within moments of that person getting in the elevator, within moments of meeting someone new, whether you roll up your sleeves, because I have a similar friend, one of my husband's best friend's wives, that I roll up my sleeves, get my game face on every single time. I'm like, this is going to be the time we're going to be besties. Right. I want to make fetch happen so bad, but it's just misaligned energy. Energy does not lie. No matter, it speaks louder than our words. It speaks louder than any other way we can show up. And the reality is, it's like, you don't have to understand it. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to judge it, but you do have to manage it. And that's really what my entire new platform is all about, is like, how do we manage this most precious currency, the way that we transact with the world? How do we manage it more like we manage our time or our money? Because we are so much more intentional about time blocking and checking our bank accounts, but we don't do the same with the most important edge that we have. In the study, it was actually really fun. We asked a bunch of people like, hey, if you're on board with somebody, like a leader, an influencer, a boss, you follow Andrea Owen because you love her books, what is it about them that makes you just want to get on board, that makes you want to say yes? We didn't use the word follow because no one wants to be a follower, but it's like, why do we use the word admire? Like, what makes you admire a leader? And we gave them about 25 options, and they included things like, Is it their education? Is it their connections, their skill set? Is it their experience? We asked maybe that was their creativity or their moral compass. You admire the good decision making. And the number one response that we got from thousands and thousands and thousands of interviews was their vibe or their way of being.
Which points to the same thing, basically. Yeah.
Not like a nice to have, like woo-woo, hippy-dippy, Lululemon, Coachella, good vibes only. It is literally the number one most critical element. If you want to be someone of impact and influence in whatever role you find yourself in, your energy is your edge. Yeah. I mean, your vibe is your value. And especially in the age of AI, like we were talking about AI earlier before we hit record, talking about different shortcuts and how it's a brainstorm buddy. But the truth is, I mean, we're getting to a point in the next 3 to 5 years, maybe sooner, where we cannot compete with computers on competency at all. We're probably there now, if we're being honest. And so where we can compete, if looking for your edge, is like the energy heavy skills of a leader or a friend or a colleague: empathy, intuition, adaptability, creativity. These are unable to be replicated at a true energetic level by computers. And so when we freak out about AI and automation, all these things, it's like, well, if you double down on the last remaining edge that you have, your vibe is your value. So are you being intentional about it? Are you being aware of it? And that was kind of our question, with these big energy beings, is like, what are they doing that we aren't? What are they? And that was kind of the big discovery that we had. So it was pretty interesting.
Okay. Well, I have to ask too, is that all this talk about, big deal energy, I'm assuming that there are people listening to this and thinking like, but I am an introvert. Like I am more shy. And does that mean that I don't have this edge that they're talking about? So what do you say to that? Because to me, it's like, it's still their energy. Like it all matters. It's just looks different.
Yeah. So we actually found in our research that, obviously you have introverts and extroverts, which we know those obviously, but in our research, 70% of people that we interviewed were what we consider to be ambiverts. So ambiverts are, Andrea and I are vibing. I'm an extrovert. The gals we both just talked about without mentioning their names, we're an introvert because it's not personal. It's like a vibrational misalignment, right? So I want to be super, super clear. When we're talking about big energy and bringing your energy as your edge, it's not Andrea and Erin Aries crazy speaker energy. It is that version of you where it is you when you're at your best. You're calm, you're clear, you're happy. It's the you that you are when your shoulders are down, your hands are relaxed, your heart's not racing, your mouth's not twitching. It's you at that version of you that you have been at some point in your life. Yeah. And so one of the things we do in this big energy blueprint, the first question is to ask ourselves, when was the last time you were that person? When was the last time that you were at a level 7 on a scale from 1 to 7? And so we go through and we do a whole workshop exercise and meditation where we're really saying like, Andrea, like when was the last time that you were in a high stakes situation or just a really important moment where you felt your shoulders were down, your physicality was relaxed, you felt funny, you felt joyful, you felt present, you felt smart, you felt ready. Like when was the last time you really just felt like that naturally, organically? And so that moment of you, that is your big energy. Like it's not about how loud you are, or how bossy or how much you hustle or grind or whatever. It's like, that is your big energy. It's the you that you are when you're at your best. And the reality is that these big energy beings in the study, they've just found a way to spend more time in that pocket than the average bear. They make decisions to engineer their life to spend more time in that space than the rest of the people we interviewed who reported having lower energy most of the time and had lower life satisfaction scores. And the truth is, they're big. I'll just give you the headline of like, it's the 5-step system, as all these things.
Okay, wait, before you do that, because I want to really dig into this. We need to take one more ad break because I really want to have you have the time to dive in because I cannot wait. Okay, we'll be right back.
Lynn, this time of year, parenting can be such a flusterclux.
You've come to the right place. I'm Lynn Lyons, and I've been treating anxious families for over 30 years.
I'm Lynn's sister-in-law and co-host Robin Hudson.
Join us for Flusterclux, a podcast for parents who worry.
Wait, that's everybody.
Yeah, these last few years have felt like one long anxiety attack for so many.
Why do you think parents are always surprised that a podcast about anxiety relates to them, even if no one in their house has an anxiety disorder?
Well, worry is human. Everyone does it, and anxiety shows up when we face uncertainty. me.
All the parenting tips you've taught me have been essential.
I love to break it down into skills we need to manage worry in our families.
We've covered so many topics: depression, burnout, meltdowns, perfectionism.
Don't forget scary mothers-in-law.
Right, but of course that's not my mother-in-law.
Because that's my mother.
And a listener.
As a psychotherapist, I like to teach parents and kids how to respond to everyday moments in healthy ways.
Managing anxiety really can be taught.
It really can. And I'll even tell you what to say.
We talk about serious stuff, but without being too serious.
Anxiety wants everything serious. Anxiety doesn't stand a chance when we're laughing, even about the tough stuff.
No one told us the truth about parenthood. Why? This is the podcast everyone needed before they had kids, because now that those little ones are here, there is a lot to unpack. I'm Rachel Shepardota, and I am your host for the podcast No One Told Us, where we tell the truth about parenting and let you in on all the stuff you really should have known about before having kids. I am the founder of Hey Sleepy Baby, but this podcast is so much more than sleep. We'll be diving into all the topics that you really care about and need to know while you do your best job raising those adorable tiny humans. Our goal is to just make you feel less alone and less overwhelmed. There are so many things that no one tells us before becoming a parent, and I think that we should really pull back the curtain on becoming a first-time or second-time mom or dad to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll have a little education, a little fun, and a whole lot of heart that goes into each and every episode. So join me and our amazing guests each week to hear us talk about what no one told us.
Hey, are you a parent of a teenager? Are you feeling overwhelmed about how to be what they need while also holding limits and boundaries that keep them safe? Are you tired of conversations that negate how messy this season of parenting is? Well, I've got you. My name is Casey O'Rourke. I am a positive discipline trainer, parent coach, and the host of the Joyful Courage podcast. Every week, I come to you with an interview digging into tough topics with experts I trust and solo shows that go deep into the personal growth and mindset needed to raise teens in a way that grows them into confident, capable young people. I am not afraid of getting real about the intersection of conscious parenting and the teen years, while also bringing in vulnerability, humor, and lightness. I'm walking the path with you and honored to serve. Listen to Joyful Courage on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you consume podcasts.
All right, so we're back. I want to jump into what you were talking about before the break, and I'm assuming this is what did you call them? The BEBs, the BEBs?
The babes, yeah, because everyone is magnetically attracted to being a babe. You want to be a babe, you want to be with a babe. Everyone loves babes. So it's the BEBs, the big energy beings. So obviously, it's not physically being a babe. It's about your energy. It's like that juicy, spicy attractiveness where you just find yourself. You want to be around them. We want to buy from them. We want to learn from them. We just want to be with them. They make it feel lighter, you know?
So what is it that they're doing?
Okay, so here's the headline. So they're doing a lot of things. We've condensed them into 5 key steps, which is the Big Energy Blueprint, which you will get with the energy exam, which you take for free, and you'll get the whole blueprint. Ultimately, the headline with these babes, Andrea, is that the big energy beings are much more, they're just better at controlling the controllables and releasing the rest. They control the controllables and they release the rest.
So it sounds like a little bit of resilience, a little bit of acceptance.
It's a little bit of I'm not saying it's Jesus take the wheel, but I'm just saying the conversations we had, the language they used, they didn't use language about like, I'm just going to power through. Yeah. It wasn't language about like powering down. Like I just need to recharge, recalibrate. The language wasn't about powering up like this Instagram influencer who's like cold plunging and saunaing and red lighting and fasting and green juice. Like these were not what they talked about when we asked like, how do they source their energy? How do they have these levels? It talks a lot about having essentially a radical level of awareness of how their own personal battery worked and also what powered them up, not their friends, not traditional advice, not what's on Instagram. They were very much okay with kind of doing them.
So they have boundaries. They have good boundaries, it sounds like.
Really strong boundaries, which you always talk about in your books so beautifully. But for them, it was really like this understanding that their version is kind of like a self-care is not selfish kind of version. But truly, they were like, they didn't talk as much about recharging. People that had lower energy talked a lot about recharging their batteries, taking the downtime, getting away, all this kind of stuff. The big energy beings, we call it pre-charging. They talked a lot about being intentional. If there was a big withdrawal coming out of their energetic account, so let's say it's a big pitch or a tough day with the in-laws or like whatever's on their calendar for that week, they're just like, this is probably going to be a big hit to the old energy balance. They made time to pre-charge. So instead of waiting until they were in the red, they sort of, invested in their bank accounts in advance. So for example, like if they had a big meeting that was going to be like a big drainer, they would carve out time instead of time blocking, they energy blocked. They'd put time in their calendar and say like 20 minutes for this, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to plug into my personal charger and I am not going to show up in tatters because I'm not going to be able to be my best energy. I'm not going to bring what they need anyway. So I don't really have a choice. It's like either keep working, hustle, grind, be everything to everyone, and then show up and you're not going to win anyway, or pre-charge, which feels a little like, do I really have time for this? This feels luxurious. Is it okay? Am I selfish? But then they show up and the ultimate end result is they lift everyone around them. Like we had this one part of the study that was really crazy. Obviously, that like energy is contagious. Everyone knows this.
Sure.
But we actually wanted to find out like how contagious is it really? And so we interviewed people about how they felt when they were in a low vibe state, 1 to 4. We had them then spend time with someone either online, like following an influencer like yourself, where they're like, oh, I just get such a great buzz from Andrea. Online or someone offline. We had them spend 1 hour online or offline with someone whose energy they admired, right? Well, then we re-asked them about their battery. We said, like, where's your battery now? 68% of the people moved from a low energy state to that high energy state, that 5 to 7, after just spending time with someone whose energy they admired. So like 7 out of 10 people can go from being bummed out to being on fire just by being around it. And so like as leaders, this is a big breakthrough. This is really, as a friend that cares about as someone who's dealing with hard stuff in your family, if you are having bad energy around you and low vibes around you, and you're just like, what is wrong with everyone? Fastest way to raise the energy around you is to start by raising it within you and just checking that battery and assessing what you need and making the time to prioritize it.
It's so fascinating. I cannot wait because I'm going to take the quiz to see if your prediction is right on, and also, because I want to see those 5 things that you mentioned at the end. And again, this link will be in the show notes, everybody, if you want to go take the quiz. Am I assuming correctly that because the thing I keep circling back to, and several of the things that you're saying is around, boundaries and things like that. And a lot of that seems like it has to do with, like you said, the self-awareness. Like you have to know and be able to see certain things, maybe like kind of read between the lines in certain situations to see what it is that you need to do to be your best self, to have that kind of energy. And also the thing that keeps popping up for me is, maybe this is just me and my type, but I have found it took me a long time to really like kind of see the light. It's like, oh, no shit. Is that so much of our behavior and our mood and our energy is driven by our emotions. And if we can't regulate them, you're kind of fucked.
Right.
So was there something around that in your research?
So we asked a lot about the emotional component because ultimately this is about managing. You can call it energy, you can call it emotions. Ultimately, the lines are blurred. It's a vibe, right?
It might just be semantics a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, the most important thing to realize is like, when it comes to what drains that from you, so regulating your emotions, right? So why do our emotions spike in negative ways to begin with? Well, there's 2 different ways. We call them the drainers, right? Whatever drains your battery. So in the drainer category, you have fixed drainers and discretionary drainers, okay? So discretionary drainers are what you can control. This is what the babes focus on, right? So these are things like what you mentioned earlier, not drawing boundaries. This is about people pleasing. This is about perfectionism. This is about reacting, not responding. This is about not getting clear, making yourself too available. Like these are all the classic, like we are choosing these drainers, whether we want to admit it or not, right? And so that's the part where it's like, if you really want a reality of vitality, like it happens by you have to choose to make those changes. It doesn't just happen by chance.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of discretionary drainers that we choose or don't choose. But on the other hand, and this is more speaking to your background in terms of like your experience with past trauma and childhood and different things you talk about in your books. There's also these like kind of fixed drainers, which is just when life comes for you and you just get hit in the face and it has nothing to do with you. You know, for me, that's kind of why I actually embarked on this whole journey. I had what I like to call, like when it rains, it pours. It's like, it was my drainy season where I had 6 horrendous things happen in 6 months. I'll just give you the flyover super fast. But this was back in 2020. You know, I think we were friends back then. We were friends, I think, in 2019.
I know that at least
friends.
one of your dogs died. Yes.
Yeah. So it was around there. So I had been sort of on the upward trajectory, just like you, like published my second book and book to speak and live in the life. And oh my gosh, I sold my agency. I finally made it. Like, here we go. Well, pandemic comes, as it does for everybody. I lost my whole speaking business, just like you. My husband made a terrible investment. He lost almost our entire life savings within 2 weeks. It had spiked when the stock market crashed. And then when it came back from the Fed, we just lost it all. So I had no business. We had no savings. I'd never seen him really be depressed before. And so he was really going to a dark place where he had been a very lightheaded, kind, happy person. So in our marriage, that was really trying to sort of all of a sudden see this. So I was trying to keep myself together, then also trying to like Tony Robbins motivational speak him back out of bed in the morning.
That's an energy drainer.
That was all happening.
Yeah.
So then we were living in California. You know, you're a San Diego gal. We were in Orange County in Laguna Beach. And my 2 very best friends who were really more like my family than my friends, like bin class, brunch, holidays, birthdays, they are my family. And within a month, they both moved across the country to Texas and North Carolina. So everything kind of happened, right? So it's a shit show. So we were in a bad spot. So we did the pandemic puppy thing. We got this beautiful puppy named Stevie Nicks. And I think I talked to you around the time of her, accident. And it sounds like, oh, it's just a dog, whatever. But I don't have human kids. So everything that I was missing from my friends and my family and the pandemic isolation and my job, everything, like she became this light for me where it was probably the happiest I've been in my entire life. Like she went with me everywhere, was always touching me. Like my brain thought she was my child. And so when we were walking home from the grocery store, she's on a leash, she gets hit by a car, totally random, wild freak accident that would never happen in a million years. To this day, I see dogs off leash all the time. And I'm like, she was on a leash, right? But when it happened, it really took me down. And it was a level of despair and depression and trauma and anxiety that I'd never experienced in my life. And so my parents and siblings got to visit me in California, which doesn't like it's a big deal really, but we're from the East Coast originally. And my family is not one of those East Coast families that's like, oh my God, California, romanticize it, like so cool, like OC. They hate California. They're like, this place sucks. They're like, it's like mudslides and
why would anyone want to live here? Yeah.
my dad's like, it's hippies. Like, let's let the whole thing fall in the ocean. They hate it. So when they all showed up to go wine tasting with me in the Santa Ynez Valley, I was like, shit, I must be really bad if my whole family's got on a plane to come visit me. And so we're all there, we're having wine, and I'm starting to feel a little bit better from losing Stevie and all the bad stuff that had happened. And I noticed my dad's head, it's kind of going like this a little bit.
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
for people that can't see Erin, it was just like a little shimmy shake. Yeah.
My dad and I are very, very close. I'm a daddy's girl for sure. We're dear friends. We always have been. And his head was sort of moving a little bit when he was talking to me. And I said, Dad, what's going on? But he's a boomer. So anyone that has a boomer parent, it's like they're allergic to like feelings, weakness, emotion.
Conversations. Yeah.
Conversation. Yeah. So he's like, I'm fine. Yeah. So 2 glasses of wine later, in vino veritas, right? So he finally came out that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, right?
That's what I was worried about.
So it was just drainer after drainer after drainer. And everyone has those seasons, right? Where life, you can't get a break. You can't, it's like, being in California, being in San Diego, you're from San Diego, I'm from Orange County. Being a surfer, you get held under wave after wave after wave. You just can't get a freaking breath, right? And everyone has those seasons. And so at this point with your energy, like I don't care how much kale you eat or how much you vibe or meditate, like you're going through an energetically risky season of your life. Yeah. And you find yourself in this place where, how do you cope? And this is where things like addiction or whatever really rear their ugliest head.
Yeah.
And so for me, my response was what my dad used to always say was, he would say, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And so I just buried myself in work. It was like, yes to every podcast, yes to every keynote. The boundaries, I couldn't even spell boundaries. It was like, yes, all the things. I just thought if I could just outwork, out hustle, out schedule, if I could just keep moving, I wouldn't have to stop and face the feelings, which is that I felt like I wanted to die. I mean, I literally was so heartbroken that I wanted to just, I didn't know what to do. I was beyond help. And so it all came to a head one day because we power through until our physicality
works until it doesn't.
Tells us we can't. So I was on a Zoom call with my entire team and we were chatting away about whatever. And I'm like getting asked questions. And all of a sudden, Andrea, like I couldn't hear them. I couldn't see them. I couldn't catch my breath. I thought I was dying. I thought I was having a heart attack.
Were you having a panic attack?
I collapsed. I woke up in the ER and it was a panic attack.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a heart attack, but apparently it feels just like that, but
it does.
You don't die
for some people.
So really intense, woke up. And so the doctor was like, you need to take a break. You need to power down, whatever. So we power through till we can't, then we power down, right? Like, okay, fuck it. Oh, sorry. F it. Like, like we are going to just be at the spa. We're doing girl stuff, work. It doesn't matter. My health. So I went to Bali for 10 days. I had a women's keynote out there, which really luckily timed. And my husband's like, can I go with you? I'm like, no. So I did an Eat, Pray, Love session for a whole week down by a mystical sacred river with a shaman and sweat lodges and green juice.
You did? I was so happy for you.
All this stuff. And shocker, my Whoop scores went back into the green and I could sleep and I could breathe and I was fine. But I also didn't have employees and clients and family and it wasn't real life. So we kind of get back from vacation, right? And you have this aura where you're like, this is new me. Like, I am going to retain this sense of like, this is like vacation Andrea. This is like, I was calling myself Bali-y, right? Like, so this lasted about 2 days. Right?
I was going to say that we call that re-entry. Like in my world, we call that re-entry. Like when you go back and you expect like to take with you exactly the energy that you had when you're on the retreat or the vacation. No,
exactly.
Re-entry
and so
can
then
just beat you up.
Exactly. And so then what happened was re-entry. I became determined to keep my re-entry energy. Then I went into like wellness overwhelm. Okay. So then wellness overwhelm is like, I'm doing red light therapy. I'm doing sauna. I'm cold plunging. I'm steaming.
The expectations.
After like a week of this, I get exhausted, right? Because it's wellness overwhelm. I'm like, I can't, who has time for all this? Right. So then I found myself 2 weeks later in a meeting, the breathing issue comes back. So I just said, you know what? I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to manage my energy. I'm either powering through till I collapse. I'm powering down, which is amazing, but I can't afford that forever. Or I'm powering up until I'm overwhelmed. What is the answer here? Like, how do I do this? And so this is why I put my entire business on hold, my entire life. I cut my expenses. I started living lean and I went on this major quest to like uncover, like, how do we do this? And what I learned from this study has changed everything for me. My business, my life, my health scores, my blood tests, everything has changed because I am prioritizing dealing with my energy as seriously as checking my bank account or looking at my calendar. Like it is in my calendar to check energy. I have alarms that go off with my power word. I have prioritized it to an extreme radical level, but the reality is you don't have to do it that hardcore. Even if you just make an awareness check around like, hey, where's my battery today? Like 1 to 7, like where am I even clocking in? If you just even do the first step of the method, that's more than 99% of anyone even does. They're just operating. So just even pausing for that awareness can change everything for you to just say, hey, it's not that I don't have time for this. This is all I have time for. Because if I don't, I can't function. I can't show up. I can't perform. And I can't be who I came here to be. I can't bring that version of me that everyone around me is counting on, So it's been quite a journey.
Sounds like it. I didn't know that it was quite that dramatic. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for this. I feel so grateful to be able to get a deep dive into this, like the snippets that I've seen on Instagram. And so everyone, it's erinking.com/energy-exam for the quiz. And that link will be in the show notes and all of your stuff.
Or just theenergyexam.com.
Oh, it's at energyexam.com.
Yeah. Theenergyexam.com. Yep.
Theenergyexam.com. Easier.
Yeah.
And before we go, is there anything that you feel like you need to say or circle back to in order to feel complete?
I would just say that if you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I know I really should be better about my energy. Like I really should, but I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. I just want to let you know that fine is an F word. And please, please, you can't BS your body. You cannot shush somatic signals. If your body is speaking to you, I am begging you, please listen to it. You don't have to, reinvent your whole life and your whole job and your whole home. You just have to stop, pause, and trust that your intuition is speaking to you. Yeah. Please listen to her because she needs you. She needs you to sit down, take a minute, take stock, recalibrate. We didn't go into all the steps in today's conversation, but if you do take the energy exam, there's an entire, very gentle, very doable, not crazy process. You can even begin to take 1 or 2 steps, because that is the experience on this planet that you deserve to live. You don't have to be high performing or high enjoying. You can be both, but it takes having the courage and the bravery to stop and just honor what your body is telling you. So that's my deepest hope for anyone listening.
Oh, thank you so much. I adore you. Any day that I get to talk to Erin King is a good one. Everyone, check out theenergyexam.com, and also make sure you follow Erin on Instagram. I don't want to send people in too many different directions. So that link will be in the show notes. I follow her. I always love everything you post. Everyone listening, thank you so much for your time. I know that is a non-renewable resource. And so I thank you so much that you choose to spend it with me and my guests. And remember, it's our life's journey to make ourselves better humans and our life's responsibility to make the world a better place. Bye for now. Hey, did you know there's free secret podcast episodes waiting for you that are not part of my regular podcast feed? Yes, AndreaOwen.com/free. And you just sign up. You get a link sent to you. It's very secret. It's like a secret club. We don't have a secret handshake. Don't worry about that. But it's these motivating podcast episodes that I made for you. They're under 20 minutes each. There's 3 of them. They're for wherever you are in your life. So head on over there and grab them. They range from really supporting you and seeing you where you are and being compassionate, all the way to giving you a giant kick in your ass and telling you how amazing and gorgeous and phenomenal you are. So AndreaOwen.com/free, and get your hands on that free podcast feed.
Are you a parent in need of a laugh and a little escape? Look no further. Parenting is a Joke is the podcast you've been waiting for. Hey, I'm Ophira Eisenberg. I'm a stand-up comic and parent. And each week I chat with one of my top comedian pals who, just like you, are juggling careers, busy lives and schedules, and raising a family. You can expect candid stories, hilarious mishaps that happen on stage and at home, and just a lot of laughs. There's no expert advice here. Well, actually, sometimes a good idea does sneak its way in, but mostly just pure, relatable fun to remind you that we're all in this parenting adventure together. New episodes of Parenting is a Joke drop every Tuesday, so tune in, get ready to laugh, unwind, and maybe even feel a little bit better about your own parenting. Because sometimes that's exactly what your therapist, pediatrician, and bartender ordered. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform.